Hey everyone, I am at the Grand Canyon, and in this video, I'm going to show you what it's like to hike the rim to rim. Not just once, but twice. I'm going to show you the two most popular routes. First, I'm going to show you from the South Rim, from the South Kaibab Trail, where I am now, to the North Kaibab Trail in the North Rim, and then I'll show you what it's like to hike from the North Rim, North Kaibab Trail, to Bright Angel to the South Rim. So, really fun video, really beautiful area. Obviously, it's a bucket list hike. It's an epic hike. It's not a hike you just show up to and hike, though. And there's a lot of planning and itineraries and training involved. I'm not going to talk about that in this video. I'm going to put that on a web page and a hiking guide because it changes, and it's kind of boring for me to sit here and talk to you about that. So go to HikingGuy.com. There's a link to that right under the video. But check that stuff out if you're thinking about doing this hike and want to plan and get some tips from somebody who's done it a number of times, which is me. Now, I'm also going to make two 360 videos for each route where you can pause and look around and see what it looks like in 360. I know some people are scared of heights, worried about the cliffside or whatever it might be. With these videos, hopefully it'll allay some of your fears. If you are scared of heights or wondering what the edges are like, you can watch those 360 videos, and I'll put links to those underneath as well. One last item, if you like the video, if you can click a little thumbs up, it's an easy way to say thank you for me making the video. It's also an easy way for the video to get found by more hikers and kind of pay it forward to other people so they can watch the video and know what to expect when they get here. All right, so I'm on the South Kaibab Trail. Let's get hiking. I got a long day ahead of me. Going over there somewhere, about 20 or so miles downhill and then uphill. All right, let's go. All right, so before we dive into the actual trail, I just want to mention a couple things about maps. I highly recommend getting the National Geographic map. You can buy a paper version for probably under 15 bucks, and you can also get the digital version as part of a Gaia GPS premium map subscription, and I'll put links to those under the video. But what's great about this map, aside from, being visually easy to understand, having the different services available, is that it has these little trail distances between the landmarks, like this one right here. And when you're actually hiking, you can look at those and kind of set mini milestones to mentally tackle this long hike and break it into small sections. So highly recommend the National Geographic map. When you go out there, you can use the paper one, like I said, or the electronic one. They will help you tackle this mentally. All right, so let's just quickly dive into the 3D map too, so you kind of get a lay of the land. Now, mentally, you can break this hike up into three sections. There's the part where we descend to the river from the South Kaibab Trail. Then there's the part where we head up the canyons, the Bright Angel Canyon. Then there's the part where we do the final climb to the North Rim. If you break these segments down, and I usually mentally don't think about the hike starting until I climb up to the North Rim. So everything here is just sort of quote unquote easy. It's not easy, of course, but that helps me save some energy for this final climb up to the North Rim. But let's go ahead and take a look here. Now we're going to leave the South Rim. We're going to go down the South Kaibab Trail. You can kind of see it winds down along the ridge here, all the way down to the Colorado River. We're going to cross the Black Bridge right there. And then we're going to go to Phantom Ranch, which is right here. Now, this is a great place for a stop and a break. There's a little canteen there. You can get food, snacks. You can also get supplies if you somehow need like a Band-Aid or something like that. I think they have that stuff there that you can get. So that's the first section down to Phantom Ranch. Then from there, we have this section, which is like the middle section, the longest section. It's going to be probably about 8 miles, and it's going to go basically up Bright Angel Canyon, follow Bright Angel Creek. Now, this is a very subtle uphill with some downhill sections, some rolling sections in here. I think you climb about 1,000 feet until you get up to the Manzanita rest area, which is right here. But this is sort of an area where you can cruise nicely on. It's pretty easy is a tough, I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier than the other sections, and you can make some good time here. And then we go up the little canyon for a way from Manzanita, but basically from Manzanita, the climbing really starts. And let me go over here. And here you can see, this is our climb up the North Rim. And this is really tough. You can see it gets very steep towards the end as the Grand Canyon trails generally do, and we get all the way up to the north rim right here. Now, if you are parked here getting a ride, this is where your hike will end. If you are staying at the campground is right over here. And if you're staying at the lodge, you're going to have to walk about 1.7 miles down to the end here to the lodge. And I'll talk about that in the guide as well. But that gives you kind of a lay of the land here on the hike. And again, break it up into 3 sections. There's the first descent, which is about 7 miles to Phantom Ranch. Then there's the middle section up the canyon, about 8 miles. And then there's about a 5-mile trip up to the north rim right here. All right, let me show you what the trail looks like. All right, so from the shuttle bus, we're just going to go up the paved path and make sure you are full with water. You can get some water right at the bus stop back there, but there's no water on the trail. And we're just going to go up the paved path until we get to the actual trailhead, which is right here. And the trail is down to the left, off to the right. There's a little area for mules, but down to the left is the South Kaibab Trail. And this is the start of our rim-to-rim adventure to way over there. We will end the hike in roughly, 9 to 12, 13 hours from now. And we're just going to keep on heading downhill here at the start of the trail. It's kind of a nice, gentle way to ease into it, but pretty soon we're going to start going down switchbacks, and you'll see the trail down there in front of you winding along the cliff. And here we go. If you look down to the right there, you can kind of get an idea of how steep these switchbacks are. And don't worry, the trail is always at least 4 feet wide. It is designed for mules, and mules can pass here. It's really safe once you get used to it. It might probably look worse on the video here, but it's not too bad. Then after the switchbacks, we kind of level out for a little bit, and you can cruise here. And you can kind of see that has the those little steps in the rock as we go down there, and you can see the switchbacks down below as we continue down here towards Point, which will be our first kind of landmark on the South Kaibab Trail. And here it is. This is a popular destination for day hikers. It's a great place to watch the sunrise. Somebody has fallen off here in recent years climbing around on the rocks, so please be careful. Stay on the trail overall if you want to be safe. Once you have your fill here, we're just going to continue on downhill, and the trail twists back this way. And you can kind of get an idea of the craftsmanship of the trail here as you go down. There's a few different surfaces, including this sort of cobblestone surface. There's not a lot of this on this trail. Other trails have that. But you're going to get some nice trails, some nice views as you see the trail wind down in front of you, and a nice view of the different layers here of the Grand Canyon. And if you go to HikingGuy.com, I'll explain what those layers are. Now you're going to go down to one of the most beautiful parts of the South Kaibab, down towards O'Neill Butte down there. We're going to wind around a little bit, and then we're going to go over a ridge, kind of like a narrow spine of a ridge as we get close. And again, this looks worse than it really is. It's not quite so steep, but you can see the trail winds down to the right as we get great views of the butte. We're going to be going down past that, down towards the right of it. But otherwise, we're going to keep on going down these switchbacks and enjoying the downhill. And pretty soon you're going to get to Cedar Ridge, and off to the left there are a bunch of cedar trees. Off to the right there is a toilet, no water but a toilet, and the trail is actually just across this open area here. You're going to go across and then down to the right a little bit, and you can see the trail here. Sometimes it's hard to find this if you're off to the left where the trees are. I'm going to continue on down towards the Butte and Skeleton Point, which will be our next landmark on the South Kaibab Trail. This part's not as steep either. You can see there's a little level area here where some people take pictures by the butte. Overall, really beautiful area, and most likely you'll be doing this around sunrise. It's the colors are spectacular here, as you can see. Now, from here to Skeleton Point, it's not so steep anymore. It is downhill, but there are some leveler sections, and it's not so rough on your knees. And at this point right here, we're almost totally flat. So if you're having a hard time on the descent, you're going to get a little break at this point. Now here's Skeleton Point. This is the first point where you can see the river. Now the trail is straight here, and we'll come back there. We'll just go straight down to do the trail. But if you do a 1-minute detour off to the left here, you just walk to the left until you get to this cliff. You'll be able to see the first glimpse of the Colorado River down below. There it is, nice and green. That's where we're going. Check out the river. There's where we came from, way up there. But otherwise, keep on heading down towards our next landmark, which is going to be the tip-off. You can see some trail runners. Sometimes people do a rim to rim to rim in one day. Trail runners will do that. But as we go down here, you're going to see the switchbacks kind of unfold nicely beneath you down towards the right, which is where we're going. That's all the South Kaibab Trail down there. Here you can see we're on the cliff. It looks, again, worse than it really is. You have plenty of room to hike here, even when you're passing somebody. And you can see it's switchbacks down there below. And there's the tip-off in the distance there. That's our next stop. Now, the tip-off can be a little bit confusing when you get up here. The bathrooms are off to the right over there. But the actual trail, the South Kaibab Trail, stays on the left-hand side and goes straight downhill. There's also a smaller kind of unmarked intersection with the Tanto Trail. So if you see a trail coming in from the left or right, as you can see here, that's the Tanto. We're not going to take that. That's a pretty primitive trail. We're going to keep on going down the South Kaibab Trail. Now at this point, we're going to be getting pretty close to the river, and the views of the river are going to start getting better. And once you kind of come through the gap past the tip-off, you can see, look at the beautiful green Colorado River down there. And you can see the trail winding around down there towards it. I'm going to continue on downhill here, down towards the river. This is a nice cruisy downhill. It's not so steep. And it's beautiful. It's hard to explain in the video, but basically when you hike this, your head is kind of on a swivel just because everything is so stunningly beautiful that you want to see everything. It's really spectacular, including very cool rock formations like this as we go down through the different strata of the Grand Canyon. And you can see here it's downhill, but it's not too steep, so it's a little bit easier on your knees at this point as we go down. Eventually you're going to come down, you're going to get more glimpses of the river down there. It's going to be so close you can almost touch it. And we're almost there, probably 15 minutes at this point we'll be down at the river. There's a little use trail off to the left here. I recommend just staying on the main trail. It's not an official trail, so let's try to respect the rules. Stay on the main trail. Keep on heading down. And then when you get here, you're going to be able to see Black Bridge, which we're going to cross right there in South Kaibab, and up in the distance, Silver Bridge, which goes to the Bright Angel Trail up the river a little bit, which we're not going to cross on this hike, but if you come back the other way and go up the Bright Angel, you will cross that bridge down there. And from at this point, it's just a little bit more. We're going to come to the junction with the little connector trail that goes over the Silver Bridge. But we're going to go right down to the Black Bridge, right down there. You can see it in the distance as we go down here. And just a little bit more. And then we're going to go through the tunnel. And this is a short tunnel. It's not too bad. Go through the tunnel, and we're going to come out on the Black Bridge and cross the Colorado River. And these are some of the oldest stones down here. These are actually almost 2 billion years old, these stones down here. The Vishnu and I think Zoroaster layers of stone. We're going to cross the bridge. Really nice bridge. You can see Colorado's nice and green right now. You can see down to the bottom, it's nice and clear. Sometimes it's brown, full of sediment. But today it's clear. You'll probably see groups of rafters going through there. It's really nice. Don't go in there to swim. People have died doing that, so be careful there. And once you get off the bridge, you're going to go downriver a little bit. You're going to pass this little native pueblo. You're going to see Black Bridge up there. There's some interpretive displays. Here's some of the Vishnu rock layer, 2 billion or so years old. Really, really impressive down here. And as you continue, there's a little water refill. This is your first water since leaving the trailhead. There's also an emergency phone. And the next big junction, or important junction that we're going to get to, is this one right here. And off to the left is the Silver Bridge and the Bright Angel Trail. But instead, we're going to go right and go up Bright Angel Canyon. So Bright Angel Canyon, Phantom Ranch, much different than the Bright Angel Trail, which is back off to the left. Here's another water refill. But anyway, we're going to go straight up the canyon here. Now at the split, the official trail is off to the left. You can also go right. All the trails basically go to the same place. We're going up the canyon here. But if you go right, it's a little more shaded and you get to go by the mule pens. But this is, there is private property here, so be respectful of all of the different houses. Just stay on the trail and eventually you'll come back to the junction here where that other trail came in from the side, the official trail. And we're just going to keep on going straight. Now you can stay at Phantom Ranch, and I'll talk about that in the guide on HikingGuy.com. But most people who are not staying here just go to the Canteen, which is over here. You'll pass it and you can get food. They have some limited supplies. You can mail postcards from here, which travel up via mule. There's a water refill. Some reason the lemonade got popular. I like the unsweetened iced tea, which is really good. And they have ice, which is also nice. But do your break at Phantom Ranch and then come back to the trail and make the left and keep on heading up the canyon. It's going to be pretty much uphill from here on out, uphill or flat. At the end of Phantom Ranch are the toilets. This is the line for the toilets, so heads up there. But we're going to keep heading up the trail and leave the Phantom Ranch area. And this is a really scenic, kind of underrated part of the hike between Phantom Ranch and kind of like the main climb up the North Rim. You're going to be going up along the Bright Angel Creek, which is right down here. And the whole way, hopefully the Bright Angel Creek is flowing nicely and you can hear the babbling brook. It's really a very beautiful area as you go up along these canyons, Bright Angel Canyon. At this point, there's a little side trail that cuts down to the South Kaibab. We're not going to take that. We're going to continue straight on up here. And Rivet Falls is going to be our next kind of landmark on this. But between there, I think there's about a 5-mile stretch or so. We're going to be going through beautiful, beautiful canyons like this. Very scenic. The trail goes alongside the canyon, alongside the creek. And there's some sections of shade. It's really, really beautiful. There's also a series of bridges here that we're going to cross, probably half a dozen or so, as we go back and forth over the creek on our way up towards the main climb on the North Rim. This is a little section called the Box. It was marked by that first footbridge, and then the end is marked by this other footbridge. It's really not the narrowest canyon here. That's up a little bit, but it's beautiful. You can see just breathtaking scenery as we hike up through the Bright Angel Canyon. This is very typical what you're seeing right now. You can see we're hiking up alongside there. The stream is down to the left. And it's also, it's a little uphill. I'd say it's rolling, generally flat. You can make some pretty good time here if you're trying to book a little bit. Another bridge as we head on up. Beautiful, beautiful part of the hike. And you can see I think this is probably the narrowest part of the canyon here. We go up alongside the stream. Really, really beautiful. This is towards the end of the narrow part. After this, it's going to widen out a little bit, and we're going to start going uphill before we split off in a little while. Yet another bridge to cross, and we have one more on this kind of section down here. But again, you can just see we're surrounded by beautiful canyons here in the oldest part of rock on the hike down here. As you go up, you're going to get little glimpses in the distance of the North Rim. And then we're going to do this last bridge for a little while. Across this wider area. And then from here on out, the canyon kind of widens out. And the slope starts going up a little bit. It's almost undetectable, but it does start to go up a little more than before. Now this is the first turnoff for Rivet Falls. There used to be a bridge here. They removed the bridge. You could hike to the falls. You just have to walk across the creek. It's a pretty cool area. You can actually go behind the falls, and you can see it from here too as you climb up. If you're doing this as a multi-day trip, visiting the falls is a good idea. If you're doing this in a day and you're trying to get done, maybe save it for another time, but you'll get some nice views of it here. If you do go there, do go behind it. It's always a kind of cool experience to go behind the waterfall. You'll notice here the hike started going up a little bit, and then there's a little bit of a downhill here. And you'll see the trail winding up in the distance there. We have this little downhill, and then we're going to come to the other sort of entrance to Rivet Falls right here, which is off to the left. It's your last chance to hit the falls before heading up toward the North Rim. But instead, we're going to go straight up towards Cottonwood, towards the next campground up here. And this is beautiful. Again, it's a bucket list classic hike. Beautiful overall. Canyon walls, streams, Bright Angel Creek. There's a couple of creek crossings here, but nothing too crazy. Beautiful views of the surrounding rock walls as we start to inch up a little bit. And you can kind of tell it's getting a little bit steeper here. It's nice because it kind of gradually eases you into it as we go up. This is a neat section along the cliff wall here with the creek way down below there. And here we are at Cottonwood Campground. And this is a really neat campground. It's not too jammed together. The spaces are kind of far enough apart that you don't really hear people. And there are toilets here, and there's water here as you go up. You're going to pass a trail board right here. There's a water refill. And the campsites are kind of scattered along the trail as you go up here. You'll see the little numbered slots for the different campsites. And go to HikingGuy.com. I'll talk about the camping options on there. Now from here, you're pretty much going uphill all the way. There's a little dip or two as we go, but it's definitely going to get steeper than it was before as we start climbing up towards the North Rim. And at this point, you've got maybe 15 or so miles in your legs. It's going to be tough for most people. So just take your time. It's not a race. More beautiful waterfalls. I mean, the scenery is what really keeps you going on this. If you told people you're going to hike 20 plus miles, on a knee-banging descent and a crippling uphill, they'd probably tell you not for me. But because the scenery is so beautiful, it's just makes it easy to do, or easier to do. Here we have one last bridge before we go up a little bit, and then here we are at Manzanita, which is a place where a lot of people sort of rest before you start going uphill. This is the beginning of the uphill. From here on out, it's steep till we get to the North Rim, but you can refill with water here. You can use the toilets. And it's a nice little place to take a break in the shade here and refuel before you start going back uphill. Here you can see there's a little trail board and some water fills, but take your time there and then start hiking up. You can see it's raining, and it does rain in the Grand Canyon. It does snow in the Grand Canyon. The North Rim is closed for about half of the year for snow, so nice to know before you start going here. And again, I'll talk about planning on the website, but if you go up there, you'll be able to see the head of Bright Angel Canyon up there, but we're going to kind of swing off and go into Roaring Springs Canyon. And there's Roaring Springs right there. That's the actual water source of all of the water in the Grand Canyon. So the water comes out of Roaring Springs, gets pumped up to the North Rim, and also down to the South Rim. So the water you've been drinking is coming from there. Now you can go down to the springs, but otherwise, if you want to stay on the rim to rim, just go straight through this junction and start climbing. You'll start to see pines, ponderosa pines, and higher up there's more vegetation as we go. You can see it's indicative of the fact that we are getting higher up in elevation as we go here. Now this part of the hike up Roaring Springs Canyon is beautiful. It's a spectacular trail, it's spectacular scenery. and we kind of hug the cliff wall up on the left-hand side for a while as we travel back up through the different rock layers. You can see the trail winding around there. Beautiful, beautiful rock formations and eroded sections here that make it really, really spectacular. And if you have a problem with heights, this section might be challenging, but again, it's still all 4 feet. And in the article on HikingGuy.com, I'll talk about some strategies that you can use to conquer your fear of heights here. But just know that literally hundreds of thousands of people make it through here. Here you can see is a section of the trail that's blasted through the cliffside, and you can see the trail coming up the canyon there from below. This is tough too. I mean, you're going uphill at a decent climb here, so take your time. This kind of shot kind of gives you an idea of how steep this is as we go up, and you see the rock formations. Really beautiful, beautiful area here. And you can also maybe notice that there's a little bit more vegetation. You can see the north rim up top there. That's where we're going to be going. And more of the hike here along the side of the cliff. If you're watching this in the 360 video, you can pan around and kind of look over the side if you're worried about what that looks like. And again, just relentless uphill. I mean, it's only, I think it's about 5 miles from Manzanita up here, but it's tough. Don't try to cook yourself. Just pace yourself and take your time and make it to the top. More cool rock formations as we go up, and then you're going to have a little bit of a downhill. And there's the Redwall Bridge down there. It's going to be our last bridge that we cross, and we're going to do this little downhill, cross over the bridge, which is spectacular. Nice views down the canyon. Can't quite see Roaring Springs anymore, but you can see down to the Bright Angel Canyon way below there. And then up top there is where we are going at that top layer of limestone. Now from here on out, it's steep. It's steep, it's tough. You know, you've got a lot of miles in your legs at this point, so take your time. There's a lot of switchbacks as we go up. And you can see down there some of the switchbacks back down to the bridge as we hike up here. And our next destination is going to be the Supai Tunnel. You can see the switchbacks winding up there. You can just break it down one switchback at a time until you get to the Supai Tunnel. At this point, it's a short tunnel through the rock. And once we come through here, there's a little rest area. You can see some of the holes where they blasted the tunnel out. Pretty cool. Once you come through here, a little rest area. It doesn't matter which way you go here. I'll go to the same place. There's a toilet and water. You're going to want to make sure you check the park website before you plan your water refills out, because sometimes these are closed. We're going to go past and then keep on heading up, and you can see it's a lot more lush at this point, a lot more vegetation as we get closer to the north rim. And again, it's steep. There's some longer switchbacks, then we get some tighter switchbacks, but the top is within your grasp right there. That's where we're going. But you can see how steep it is in this shot as well. Almost there. And of course, when you get tired, you can just look back down. Way back down there is the Bright Angel Canyon that we came up from about 4 miles ago at this point. More switchbacks. There's the top right there, almost at the trailhead, but you can see switchback goes back to the left over here. And our next sort of destination is this Overlook, which is about a half a mile from the end. It's a popular day hike for people visiting the North Rim. Check out the Overlook. Enjoy the views. Kind of one last time from here, we're going to kind of twist back. We've got a couple more switchbacks in the open here, but we're going to kind of twist back into the trees, into the forest for 1 or 2 long switchbacks, which will seem long, seem longer than they probably are for you at this point. And then eventually you get to the trailhead. This is the North Kaibab Trailhead, and this is the entire hike. So by this point, you've done it. Sometimes there's a shuttle bus down to the lodges, but otherwise you have to walk to the lodge, which is about 1.7 miles. And I'll put all that information on the website. But that's it. That is South Rim to North Rim. So that's south to north. I'm up here at the North Kaibab Trailhead. I'm going to go to the lodge, get a good night's sleep, drive a couple cheeseburgers into my belly, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow, and I'm going to show you what it's like to do North Rim on the North Kaibab to South Rim on the Bright Angel. So let me get a snoozer, and we'll get rolling again. All right, let's talk about the route from north to south, taking the Bright Angel back. South Kaibab was over here. Bright Angel is over here this way. So let's head on down to the North Rim. Now, you can see, once again, if you're staying at the lodging, you have to walk over here, but we have this nice long descent down on the North Kaibab Trail until we get to Roaring Springs in the Manzanita area, which is right here. That's about 5 miles. And then we have the journey down through the canyon, which will be downhill. We're going to descend probably about 1,000 feet or so until you get to Phantom Ranch, which is going to be around 9-ish miles or so. And then we're going to cross over Silver Bridge. And instead of going up the South Kaibab, we are going to go along the river here on the River Trail. This section is a little bit up and down, mainly flat. And then at River Rest House here, which is also Pipe Creek Beach, we're going to go up along Pipe Creek, up to the section called the Devil's Corkscrew, which are a series of switchbacks. We're going to leave Pipe Creek, head up along Garden Creek, all the way up to Indian Garden, which is right here. And then we're going to basically hike up to the 3 Mile Rest House, which is there. The section's called Jacob's Ladder. And then we're going to go from there up to the 1.5 Mile Rest House, which is right here. And then we have the final 1.5 miles, which will feel like 10 miles, up to the Bright Angel Trailhead. So again, break this into 3 sections. You have the descent, you have the middle section along the canyon, and then you have the climb up once you cross the river, which starts gradual and then gets steeper as you get closer to the top. All right, let's take a look at what this trail looks like. All right, so from the North Kaibab Trailhead, we're just going to head down into the canyon. Apologies for these stutters in the beginning here. Gets better in a second or two, but we're just going to head down the trail and eventually going to pass a sign that tells you not to bring any pets or watch out for the mules and be careful and all of that fun stuff as we go down here. There are some people who do day hikes down to different points along the North Kaibab Trail, but in a minute or two, you're going to come out of the trees and get some great views down into the Grand Canyon, which is nice as we start heading downhill here. You'll also be able to look down to your right and see the trail wind down there. We're basically heading down this canyon here, all the way down until we get to Bright Angel Creek. At the Overlook, you can check this out. This is about 0.5 mile in, and another popular spot for people who just want to kind of dip their toe into the canyon. But we're going to be going down Roaring Springs Canyon down there and all the way down to the bottom, unlike most other people who come down to this overlook. And we're just going to keep on heading down here. It's a nice long downhill, lots of switchbacks. It's kind of steep, but not crazy steep. You should be okay, but your knees might get a little sore as you go down here. And I'll give you some strategies on coping with the downhills and the edges and all that fun stuff on HikingGuy.com as you go down. As you leave the limestone, you'll notice that the soil turns red here. We're going to go through all the different strata. And eventually we're going to come down to the Supai Tunnel rest area. And there's a toilet here and there's some water, but you always have to check the Park Service website to make sure the water is on. And I'll talk about water in the guide as well. So check that out. And then right after the Supai Tunnel rest area is the actual Supai Tunnel. And it's not long or anything. It's a really short tunnel, but still pretty neat. And you can actually, if you look down, you can see where they blasted in the rocks, the little holes that they drilled into the side of the walls to blast. There's one of them right down there. Pretty cool. And when you come out of here, we're probably going to go down what's the steepest section. You'll see the trail unfolding in front of you like a ribbon. And we're going to basically go down about 15 million switchbacks until we get down to the Redwall Bridge, which is down in the canyon down there. So go ahead, take your time. You're going to watch your footing, obviously, as you go down here. It can get slippery on the dust as we go down along the wall. And all these trails are wide enough for mules to go up. They're all about 4 feet wide at a minimum, so nothing to be scared of. Millions of people do this hike. I think millions, at least hundreds of thousands do it as you continue on down here. So if they can do it, you can do it. And eventually you're going to come on down to the Redwall Bridge. But before that, you're going to be able to look up and see the trail where you came down originally. It's amazing how quickly you go downhill without knowing it. Before you know it, you'll be down about 1,000 feet, and then even more. We're going to cross the bridge, get some nice views down into Roaring Springs Canyon down there. Nothing's flowing right now. Eventually we're going to see Roaring Springs down a little bit, which is what supplies the entire Grand Canyon area with water. But first we have this little uphill, a little bit of a kicker before we start heading downhill again. Not a big deal. And then this section right between here and Roaring Springs is really beautiful, and there's a lot of sections that go right along the canyon wall. If you're scared of heights, there's sections where there's a sheer drop down on the left, so just take your time and enjoy the views. Don't look down if it scares you. You can see some older rock coming up there as we go down into another strata of rock down here, which is really beautiful, especially in the morning when the sun is hitting all of these cliffs. The colors are incredible down here. You can see the trail winding down along the cliff in front of you as we continue down here. For a lot of this, they've actually blasted through the canyon walls. You can see how we're going down here. And this is an actively maintained trail, so you might even see trail crews as you go out here and you hike down. Really neat as we go down here. So you can see we've blasted into the wall to make the trail as we keep heading down some switchbacks. Follow the trail down along the canyon wall down over there. Also take note that there's still some pine trees and lush vegetation. That's going to go away as we get lower. North Rim is a relatively high elevation. I think you're around 8,000 feet. At this point, you're going to probably hear it first, but you'll see Roaring Springs over there falling down the mountain. And that's the water source for the north and south rim of the Grand Canyon. So it's pretty neat. All the water that you drink on the trail comes from Roaring Springs. And there's a little side trail down to the left if you want to visit. If you're doing the rim to rim, I don't recommend it. I just focus on getting across. But you can continue if you like to. And then once we pass Roaring Spring, there's about 3/4 of a mile down to the Manzanita rest area. And that's kind of the end of the really steep portion of the downhill. In Manzanita, there's a toilet, and there's also water and some picnic benches. A lot of people will stay here and take a breather. But if you want to continue, we're just going to keep on going straight. And past Manzanita, we're going to cross one of about a half a dozen bridges over the creek here. Now at Manzanita, we actually go into a different canyon. We're in the Bright Angel Canyon. We're on the North Kaibab Trail, but the Bright Angel Canyon, not Bright Angel Trail. And we're going over actually Bright Angel Creek here, and we're going to follow it all the way down to Phantom Ranch in the Colorado River. Now at this point, I think you have maybe about 8 or 9 miles till you get down the Colorado River, and we're basically going to be going down this canyon the entire way. And it's beautiful. You're going to be following Bright Angel Creek and doing some bridge crossings, and some parts of the canyon are narrow, some of them are wider, but overall it's a really beautiful, beautiful experience as you go down here. You'll also notice some of these campsites. We're coming down to Cottonwood, which is a great place to camp. And if you go to the website, I'll talk about itineraries and possibly camping and doing this in multiple days. We're just going to go through Cottonwood. There's a trail sign, a little thermometer up there. Hopefully it's not too warm. There's some water. One of the advantages of these corridor trails, North Kaibab, Bright Angel, South Kaibab, North Angel, the North Kaibab and South Kaibab, as they all have water. At the end of Cottonwood, there's a ranger station, there's toilets. If there's something wrong, that's the place to deal with it. But otherwise, keep on going through. We're going to head down towards Rivet Falls, head up along the canyon. Now this stretch is kind of like I guess you'd call it a false downhill. It's sort of rolling. You can see we're up along the ledge here. There's the creek down there. There's a couple of uphills, but in general, I think between Cottonwood and the river, you're going to lose maybe about 1,500 feet. So it's overall a downhill, and you can kind of cruise. You can see the trail there winding in front of us, going down the canyon. And the trail in the canyon is kind of wider at this upper portion. You can see there's some little creek crossings, there's some little waterfalls. Overall, really, really beautiful. And the idea is that basically as we go down farther, the canyon gets a little bit narrower. Now at this point, there's the turnoff for Rivet Falls. It used to be a bridge. They dismantled it. You can go there and you got to walk across the creek. If you have time, it's a beautiful place to go. You can see the south rim peeking up above the rise there. There's a little bit of an uphill past that, and then you're going to go downhill. But on the downhill, you're going to be able to see Rivet Falls up there. And if you do have time to make the side trip, you can actually go behind the falls, which is really neat. If you're splitting this hike over a day or two, it's worth a side trip. But again, if you're doing it in a day, just focus your energy on getting across to the other side. I think that's probably a prudent move. Now after that little downhill, it's basically just a gradual downhill for the rest of the way. And you can see the fauna has changed. No more pines. Now there are cacti and scrub down here as we head along Bright Angel Creek. There's some buttes. It starts to feel more like the Grand Canyon that you've probably seen in the videos before, as opposed to the way it is on the North Rim, where it's a little more pine and alpine. All right, now we're going to cross a bridge. As we head downhill, there's a few bridge crossings in a row as we do the next few miles, and it's going to be about 4 or 5 miles till we get to Phantom Ranch down here from Rivet Falls. This is kind of my favorite part of this stretch in the middle here. The path gets narrow, the canyons get narrow, they get really scenic, they're beautiful. It's pretty easy hiking. You don't have to watch your footing too much. It's not a steep downhill, and it's not a crazy steep uphill. It's just sort of a nice cruisy hike along the Bright Angel Creek and the canyon. And you can see here how beautiful kind of the canyon walls are. And as you go down, this is the oldest stone in the Grand Canyon. The oldest stone down at the bottom is actually close to 2 million years old, the Vishnu Formation, so it's pretty amazing when you think about it. Another bridge, another crossing of the Bright Angel Creek, and this stretch is neat where it goes along the cliff wall. You can see they've blasted out of the cliff as we keep on heading down Bright Angel Creek here. Now another bridge as we go across, and there's a section called the Box, which is not quite as narrow as the last section, but it is beautiful. And again, more canyons, more creek, more cruisy downhill trail. Here you can kind of get an idea of what the walls of the canyon look like. And just a heads up, if you're using a GPS, it might go crazy in these canyon walls. It's a tough environment for GPS, and what happens basically in practical terms is that your GPS will show you a different distance than what you think it should be. So don't rely too much on the GPS as you go through here. I recommend getting the National Geographic map, which has little distances between each landmark. It's a great way to navigate the hike and to plan the hike. That little section back there was the Box, crossing back over into the canyon. As we approach Phantom Ranch, it starts to widen out a little bit. Hopefully we get some nice cool breezes coming up from the Colorado River. And here we have a junction with a trail that cuts across to the South Kaibab. We're not going to be taking that. At this point, you maybe have a half mile to go or so until you get to the beginning of the Phantom Ranch area. And again, it's the same idea, just this beautiful trail along the Bright Angel Creek here. And there's the South Rim We'll be going up that shortly. But here's the beginning of Phantom Ranch. And Phantom Ranch is, there's cabins down here, there's a campground at Bright Angel, and there are private residences for the Park Service, so please be respectful as you go through here. There's a toilet up top, but otherwise we're going to go through to the main area. You can see some of the ranger cabins here, and there's a little work area and private area for the rangers. There's a lizard. The main attraction here is the canteen, where people stop and you can get cold drinks with ice, you can get food, you can get some basic supplies, you can mail postcards that get sent up by the mule, which is right over there on the right. So check out the canteen, but otherwise keep on going straight down through the Phantom Ranch area. And there's some splits here. You can't really go wrong. As long as you're going in this direction, going straight, you'll end up out the other side at some point. But some of the attractions like the amphitheater and everything are over on the left, and we're just going to go down. Stay right along the trail here. There's a bridge at this point. That's the Bright Angel Campground over there, another great campground to stay at. If you are doing this with a backpack as an overnight, that's a great option if you can book it. We're just going to keep going through, and then we're going to come to this big junction. There's a little bridge down on the right. This is where we're going to make the right-hand turn, head along the river. If you ended up going straight, you would go to the South Kaibab Trail. We're not going to go up that. We're going to go up the Bright Angel. There's no water sources on the South Kaibab, so it's much better to go up this way to the south rim. As we go over the bridge, there's a last toilet. I recommend filling up your water here. This next section can get pretty hot until we get to the Indian Garden. So prepare accordingly, and I talk about that on the website, so you don't have to remember it now. Eventually you'll come around the river, you'll see the Silver Bridge over there. I'm going to cross over the Silver Bridge, which is one of the highlights of the trip. There's a grading at the bottom if you're scared of heights. This might be a little bit rough, but the river is really beautiful. Sometimes it's a little muddier, a little siltier, but today it's nice and clear and green. You can see the rapids. Sometimes you see people going down in rafts and everything. It's a really, really cool experience to cross the bridge and to cross the river. When it is clear, you can look down, you can see the rocks down on the bottom, and just enjoy the views. There you can see some of the rapids. And that's the Black Bridge up there. If you come down the South Kaibab, you'll come across the Black Bridge. But otherwise, keep on across the bridge, over to the other side, and over the other side, you're going to make the right-hand turn. There's a short trail back to the left to go to the South Kaibab, but otherwise we're going to make the right and head down along the river trail to Pipe Creek, and then we're going to head up the Bright Angel. This is one of my favorite parts. It's a little bit of an up and down. It's a little bit tough because it's sandy. It's pretty hot down here as well. But it's one of the only areas on this hike where you get to hike along the Colorado River. And the views down to the river are really nice, and you can see some of the rapid sections. Really, really cool. And this is all the oldest rock down here. This is the 2 billion year old Vishnu Rock. I think it's almost 2 billion, in that ballpark. What's a couple 100,000 years, right? And when we come up here, we're going to approach Pipe Creek Beach, and you'll be able to see it down there to the right. Nice little sandy beach area. And the trail twists in, and if you go back to the right, you can visit the beach. And again, if you want to dip your feet in there, they don't recommend going into the river because obviously you can get swept away, go into the rapids. But otherwise, we're going to go straight down here and start our long, long climb up to the south rim. And this is just a utility area here, but otherwise we're going to keep on going past and cross where the river rest house is, which is right here. Actually, that's the sign to go back to the beach, sorry. The rest house is right ahead there. And to get to the rest house, you just cross across the creek. Across the creek. That's what I meant. Right over there, and you can go to the little shaded area, but otherwise we're going to head up Pipe Creek and up along the canyon. And it can get pretty hot in here. Sometimes there's a cool breeze, but the rock is all black, so it attracts heat, and it can kind of get hot sometimes. There's some stream crossings. If you have trail runners, it's nice to kind of get your feet wet, cool them off, but it's really beautiful here. along Pipe Creek with all the dark rock and rock formations in this narrow canyon. One of the nice things about doing this climb is that in the beginning it's gradual. You can see we're going up along the creek here. We're going to be going up some switchbacks in a few minutes here, but it kind of eases you in. The hardest parts at the very end, which I guess could be good or bad, but it does ease you in. And there you can see an area called the Devil's Corkscrew, which is a series of switchbacks it'll be tough. It's usually pretty hot here. Here we're going up them. This is your first real taste of steep, Grand Canyon climbing. The rest of it was sort of gradual, but here you're going to do the steep switchbacks and climb on up. And the nice thing is you can see down to the trail below you where you came up along Pipe Creek. We're going to go all the way up there. And again, just pace yourself. You have a lot of climbing at the end, so the trick is not to go super fast here. Just take it at your own pace, enjoy yourself, enjoy the views. There is a point here where it gets a little bit less steep, a little more gradual as you sort of go up there and wind around the canyon wall. Eventually you're going to come up and leave Pipe Creek, and you're going to see another creek over here. This is Garden Creek, and it plunges down through a little slot over there down a waterfall. And from here on out, we're going to be following Garden Creek all the way up to Indian Garden. There you can see it down there. There it goes, plunging through. And the nice thing about this section is that it's uphill. That's not the nice part. The nice part is uphill, but it's not super steep. And again, we're just following the creek up along here. It's pretty mellow, and you can kind of get into a nice rhythm as you climb up here towards Indian Garden. Beautiful canyon. Also, it's probably your last chance at solitude. Once you get to Indian Garden, there's a ton of day hikers, so the people who are down here are a little more hardcore. There's a family of bighorn over there, hopping around the cliffs. You got to keep your eyes open. They're hard to spot, but there are definitely a ton of them here. Also mule deer, you can see sometimes. But really, really neat as we climb up along Garden Creek here. And you can see the trail is well maintained, as always. Still the corridor trail, the Bright Angel Trail. Really well maintained trail as we go up here. And you might even see trail crews working in this point. Now here's the intersection with the Tanto. We're not taking the Tanto, which is considered one of the primitive trails. We could go over the South Kaibab from here if we wanted to, but let's just do it the right way. Head up Bright Angel. Once you pass that, we're going to start entering the Indian Garden area. You'll see a sign telling you that you're entering the area. There's a little map here. It's not too tough to navigate. Basically, if you're not going uphill, there's a misfire somewhere in your directions. This is the pump house right here. This is where the water from Roaring Springs, which we passed earlier, gets pumped up the south rim and up to all of the attractions up there. And eventually we're going to come down to the Indian Garden area. We're going to make a left. There's some shaded areas over there. There's a thermometer, which always reads a little bit higher than it really is. Spoiler alert. But there's water over here. And this is generally a place where people will rest and regroup before climbing up the south rim, which is probably the hardest part of this hike here. Once you pass that, there's some toilets over here. And there are other toilets as we climb up, but you gotta go. There's a campground in here where you can also stay. Again, it's hard to book these, but it is a nice option. This little desert oasis here. We're just going to walk through the Indian Garden area all the way out to the end. And this part's, it's just a gradual uphill. It's not too steep. That'll change in a little bit. You'll be able to see right up there these switchbacks. Now the switchbacks between here and 3 Mile Rest House, they're called Jacob's Ladder. It's a really kind of intricate series of switchbacks. And here we are, we're on them, we're doing the climb. And from here on out, you're gonna have some pretty steep uphills. There's not really any place to rest or hide. It's about 4.5 miles, I guess, up from Indian Garden to the top. In the beginning, it's kind of straight, not too tough as we approach, but there you get a good view of Jacob's Ladder and the Switchbacks as we go up towards 3 Mile Rest House. Obviously, as you go up, take breaks if you need to. Enjoy the views. That's what it's all about. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these incredible views. So use your slow speed to have an excuse to take in the views. And this gives you an idea of kind of how steep it is. It's really hard to say, but at this point, you've got over 20 miles in your legs, and you'll probably be feeling it. There's 3 Mile Rest House up there. You get a nice view of it. It's kind of a major landmark as you do this tough part. And to actually get to the rest house, you have to go back and uphill a little bit, of course, but there is water there, and there are toilets back there as well. Otherwise, we're going to keep on heading up. Our next landmark will be the 1.5 Mile Rest House, and it's going to be more of the same. Steep climbing, switchbacks, and not a lot of shade as you go up here. And views. I can't forget the views, right? It's always fun when you climb up here to see the day hikers coming down. That's where they come down from. That's the trailhead of Bright Angel up there. The people who don't know what they're in for always have a nice big smile on their face as they're cruising down. Nice views you can see back up to Bright Angel Canyon where you came down earlier from the North Rim. And as you get higher, you're going to come up through the strata of rock up to the limestone, coconino up here. You'll see the change in the color of the rock as you go up. Really beautiful. And up there is the 1.5 Mile Rest House bathrooms. The bathrooms are back off to the left. The actual rest house is off to the right. Just a heads up, they're not together. There are the bathrooms. If you have to go to the bathrooms, do it. Otherwise, make the right and continue on uphill. Once you pass that little junction where the bathrooms are, you come to the water. And then right past that's the actual rest house up here. Again, a really neat day hike destination if you want to kind of dip your toe into the canyon. You can see there's a sign, there's some stairs up to the rest house, but otherwise we're going up the last 1.5 miles. Usually for me, I've done this many times, it's fairly soul crushing, but you know you're close, so you can mentally tick off the mile or quarters of a mile as you go up here. There's some last nice views as we head up, and there's switchbacks. It's steep. It's just a tough climb. So do what most people do and go a little bit, take a break, go a little bit and take a break if you're struggling. There you can see the trail winding up. Right in front of us, that's where we're going to go. That's the end right there. Hard to believe we've come all this way, just 1.5 miles or so. We will be at the top. And midway here, you're going to pass through a tunnel. There's another one before we get to the very top, but it's a fun landmark to go through as we head up here. More of these stairs, more uphill, more switchbacks, all the things you love. Doesn't kill us, makes us stronger. As you do this last switchback here, you're going to actually see the trail go up, and that's the end right there. That's the end of the Bright Angel. So at this point, we're almost there. We're just going to hit another little tunnel. Head through this tunnel. There's a thing warning you not to fall off the side of the cliff. That's a good sign that there's a lot of day hikers and people just venturing down from the edge here. But we're going to go here, and the nice thing is towards the end, the gradient eases up. There's a trail back to the left, which brings you back into the lodge area, but to actually go to the official trailhead, we're just going to go straight all the way up until the very end, and this is the official Bright Angel trailhead. You did it, 20 plus miles, rim to rim. Go get an ice cream cone, a beer, a hamburger, basically anything you want. You just hiked the rim to rim. So that's it, guys. Rim to rim to rim. Feel like $1 million. Not quite, but I do feel a tremendous sense of accomplishment. I hike all the time. I do really hard hikes. This is always a tough hike, no matter what. So if you do end up doing this and you finish, which you kind of have to, you know, kudos to you. It's a tough, tough hike, and well done. Now, if you want to get more information on this, just go to the webpage on HikingGuy.com, where again I have everything else you want to know: the itineraries, training, lodging, gear, everything else is on that webpage, which I will keep up to date. If you read that and you still have questions, come back to YouTube and leave me a comment, and I'll do my best to answer them and answer any questions that you guys may have. I can barely talk right now. I need to go collapse into a bed. And anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you out there.